Jim, this was sent in via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Edward Whipkey. How true was it that Kerry Von Erich was going to replace Sting for Wrestle War 90 since Jim was on the booking committee?
The what? Now, back up?
When Sting got hurt leading up to Wrestle War 90, the match with Flair that Lex Luger took his place, he's saying, how true is it that Kerry Von Erich was going to replace Sting?
That's news to me. Where was Kerry then? Was Kerry still in Texas? Was Kerry?
Yeah.
Was he out of commission? When did he have his wreck? I don't know. Point is, all I can tell you is that we were in Corpus Christi the night it happened. That they had set the whole thing up. The Horsemen had become babyface. Sting was a part of the group so that they could do the deal that they did where Ole could tell him off. They could turn on Sting. And that was going to set up the February pay-per-view. Was February 25th, was it? That date sticks out in my mind, 1990. It was going to be Sting and Flair was going to put the belt on Sting. And in the show closing deal, when the Horsemen were getting the heat in the cage on, and I think it was the other heels, it was Gary Hart's guys, because they had just turned heel earlier that night. So the Horsemen were beating up the other heels, and Sting came down, tried to climb in the cage, and Sting was going to try to climb in the cage and get the Horsemen, and then everybody else was trying to pull Sting down. Don't go in there, and it's going to be mass chaos. Well, Doug Dillinger had never been trained as a worker, reverted back to his goddamn police training and pulled Sting down off the cage for a shoot. And when he landed, that's when he tore his ACL. And so we didn't automatically know that it was torn, but since he was hobbling around in the back, we knew something was up. And I had originally, where the fuck were we the next day? Somewhere in Texas. I'll just grab my Midnight Express book and figure out where we were, because that was February 1990, correct? We were in Corpus Christi for the Clash of Champions. And that was February the 6th. And the next day, we were in Beaumont, Texas. So point being, I had been going to drive to Beaumont that night, but Flair said, we got to figure out something. Everybody just said, let's stay here. And because he was going to fly anyway the next morning, and we'll meet at the airport in the morning and we'll figure out what we're going to do. Because the pay-per-view is the 25th and it was in Greensboro. I've just seen in my book. And so I'm thinking, what the fuck, blah, blah, blah. And get there the next morning thinking we're going to have this meeting and, concoct all these potential ideas. And Flair just said, we're going to switch Luger, put him in there. And then we just flew to fucking Beaumont. And I mean, did he call Kerry that night from the Holiday Inn in Corpus Christi and ask him then? Because the next day he told the rest of his creative team that we were going to switch Luger. So, and I'm looking here because we were at, Beaumont, we did 3 TV tapes. And Luger began his babyface turn. Because we were doing TV, there was no way from one night to the next day to bring anybody new in, right? So no, I don't believe there was anything to that.
The rumor had always been that later in the year they wanted Kerry Von Erich to come in, and he decided not to, and that's when he went to the WWF and had that run where he beat Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam, and was a top babyface for a little while.
That is more credible. Because later on in the year, depending on what time it was, I was not on the creative team. I heard bubbles of, but you would think they would talk to Kerry if Kerry wasn't signed anywhere else and was back, ambulatory after his accident, blah, blah, blah.
But he was never brought up to you in your time on the booking committee as someone to bring in or anything.
I mean, if in passing, it would have been to the point where I didn't even really remember it. You know, at that point, that was from what, September, October of 89 through February of 90.